Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see, I'm going to be taking my first look at Pathfinder role-playing game First Edition. From what I understand, that this game came out around 2009 or so. It's been about 10 years, and Pathfinder is now currently in its second edition, which was released sometime around the summertime, this past summer. I'm taking my first look at the game system. One of the reasons why I waited this long is that I've been playing so many other games and looking into so many other games, and I've always been a Dungeons and Dragons player and DM. So when it came around to rebuilding my collection of Dungeons and Dragons first edition through fifth edition, I got to the point where I was looking at picking up 3.5, Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, and I had several of the core books queued up in eBay to buy all three core rule books, and that deal kind of fell through. And I was looking to see, well, what else could I, pick up along the way? Because at the time, I wanted to get something new to start digging through. Something older, but new for me. And I came across a three-book deal of Pathfinder First Edition. So I kind of jumped on it, and I will go to a different screen here so you can see a little better. So I picked up the core rulebook, and as you can see, it's the hardcover, obviously, and it's in pretty good condition. This is a sixth edition, so 2013, and by looking through it, I could see that it's potentially 2009 was when Pathfinder was first released. I also picked up the strategy guide, and once again, in pretty decent condition. And I'll go through each of these books slightly. So this is the first printing of this was 2015. So I'm assuming that this is the first printing. So first printing of the book, that was sixth. This is first. And then the Pathfinder Bestiary. Once again, a nice sized volume. And this is the third printing, 2011. And so, Paizo Publishing, 2010. So 2009, 2010 seems to be when they first started releasing these. Now, the big score was the fact that I got all three books for $30. And so $10 a piece, you really can't go wrong. And I kept up with my trend of having the core rule book, or DM's guide, a strategy guide, which I'm assuming this was like the player's strategy guide, and so almost like a player's handbook, and that appears to be what this is. And finally, the essentially the monster manual. So I'm going to switch over and take a look at the core rule book in a little bit more detail. So here we have it, the core rule book. And start going through, and you come here right on the table of contents here. And we have getting started and the basic, common terms and examples of play, generating a character, ability scores. You have the races of dwarves, elves, gnomes, half-elves, half-orcs, halflings, and humans. You have the character classes here of barbarians, bards, clerics, druids, fighters, monks, paladins, rangers, rogues, sorcerers, and wizards, and so on. The skills and how to acquire skills, character feats, types of feats, feat descriptions, prerequisites for those, equipment, combat, magic, spells, prestige classes. So you have the arcane archer, you have the arcane trickster, you have an assassin, a dragon disciple, a duelist, an eldritch knight, a lore master, a mystic thurg, a pathfinder chronicler, and a shadow dancer. Chapter 12 is on game mastering. Chapter 13 is the environment, so your game world environment. Creating NPCs is chapter 14, so adepts, aristocrats, commoners, experts, warriors, and creating NPCs. Magic items is chapter 15, and that pretty much closes it out. There are some appendices, such as special abilities, conditions, inspired reading, game aids, the OGL. And a character sheet. I've often heard this described as being Dungeons and Dragons 3.75. So it falls somewhere in between 3.5 and 4.0. So jumping back into this and, start taking a look. One of the things about Pathfinder is that it has an art style that it has become pretty well known for. And so here's one of its more iconic characters is Pathfinder goblins. So these are their goblins, and their Pathfinder is pretty well known for these caricatures of goblins. And I believe goblins are actually a playable race in some of the Pathfinder world settings as well. Once again, I mean, whether it be TSR or Paizo, the quality of their artwork is without debate. I mean, the artwork over these last 40 years in role-playing games in general tends to be really, really done well. So you have some skeletons here, and you can see that style that you also saw in the goblins. You can kind of see those features here as well. Very sharp, very sharp features to everything. Everyone's kind of spiky and almost like an anime kind of view to or visual effect for them. So here we're looking at dwarves, gnomes, elves are here, and each race, just like most fantasy role-playing games, each race has various traits and abilities that are unique to that particular race. You have half-orcs. There's half-elves on the other side. Here we have humans. So humans get a +2 to 1 ability score. They tend to be medium, normal size. Bonus feat, humans select 1 extra feat at first level. Skilled, humans gain an additional skill rank at first level and 1 additional rank whenever they gain a level. Languages, humans begin with common. Humans with high intelligence scores can choose any language they want, except for languages such as Druidic, which is more of a class language, so that kind of makes sense. We go into the classes here, and once again, you can see that style of the artwork. Very anime as far as the oversized weapons and spiky hair and such. So very unique vision of characters in this world. The classes and the races are almost a stock D&D. So no arguing there. Bards as not as a prestige class, but as a main class. So that's kind of interesting. Same thing with well, this is a cleric. I was going to say monks, but there's a cleric. Interesting, ex-clerics. A cleric who grossly violates the code of conduct required by her god loses all spells and class features except for armor and shield proficiencies and proficiency with armor and shield proficiencies with simple weapons. She cannot thereafter gain levels as a cleric of that god until she atones for her deeds. See the atonement spell description. So clerics here have domains. So there's an air domain, animal domain, artifice domain, chaos, charm, darkness, community domain, death domain, destruction, earth, evil, fire, glory, good, healing domain, knowledge domain, law, liberation, luck, madness, magic, nobility, plant domain, repose domain. So many different domains. It was kind of like I'm guessing it's kind of like a differentiation between, one deity and its priests and another. Trickery domain. So deities, Asmodeus, Callistria, Lamushtu, and Norgorber. So each of them have each domain is dedicated to a certain deity. So here we have druids and a whole section on druids as well. Fighters, which are very commonplace. So here's a ranger. I'm assuming it's a dwarf ranger, so that's pretty cool. Let's see, class skills. Favorite terrains of various rangers. So rangers at 3rd level may select a type of terrain from the favorite terrains table. The ranger gains a +2 bonus on initiative checks and knowledge of geography, perception, stealth, and survival checks within that domain. Oh, so that's terrain. That's pretty cool. That's an interesting feature. Rogues and thieves tend to be my favorite class, or one of my favorite classes. I kind of like barbarians as well. So here they're called rogues, just like in later versions of Dungeons and Dragons as well. I believe starting with maybe 2nd edition on forward, they were called rogues. Sorcerer. And I'm sure there's several types of sorcerers. Sorcerer bloodlines, they call them. So instead of domains, they're called bloodlines. And so on. And it's interesting to pick up these older systems that are really quite full-size systems. I mean, there's a ton of books for Pathfinder First Edition, and to actually go into it and start digging into it and learning it for the first time is something that I'm looking forward to. I've had the starter box of Pathfinder for probably a little bit over a year, maybe even longer. So getting this here will now allow me to see, kind of the full version or advanced version of the game system, and hopefully get some time to actually play it and give it a shot. Take a look at the strategy guide here. And so, let's see, because I literally have not. These weren't quite, holiday presents. I had purchased these on eBay a couple of weeks before the actual holiday season. So I'm only just getting to them now. You've probably seen behind me when I've done other videos that they've been sitting on my shelf now for, it's actually probably a little bit over a couple of weeks that I've had them. So Angelborn, Animal Friend, Archers, Battle Priests, Berserkers. So this just seems to be character themes. It just seems to be like adding a different layer. Also, let's see, Thief 25. So let's take a look at Thief 25 and see what it says. A thief. All right, so a thief, I'm getting so much glare on this. A thief is a master of dark trade, trained in stealth, subterfuge, sabotage, and various social situations. He's very qualified to handle traps and locks, and his expertise in a wealth of other skills makes him a brilliant problem solver. He's no slouch in combat either, as a thief is accomplished at taking advantage of the foe's weaknesses to strike the most vulnerable places on the body. Picking a race, halflings are natural thieves, as the theme makes excellent use of their enhanced dexterity, natural grace and perception, and small size. Half-elves also make excellent thieves, and so on. So it just seems to be like adding some additional flavor to the other classes in some cases. So there's various class guides, weapon proficiencies, spell casting. It looks like it's a broken down version of the core rulebook. Really just something to allow the players to go through, so it's a little bit less dense for the players to go through as they're looking to play. So clerics, you can see the layout of the book is very easy to read. So that's another thing that's kind of important, is to have the rules presented in a way that they're easy to access. So that's quite interesting. Once again, $10 per book, so I really can't complain. I thought it was a great buy. And a little bit ding here, but again, for $10, really a great buy. I noticed this person here was putting these in each of the books. I'm not quite sure why. So here we have a list of, it's basically the monster manual. Ankhed, animated objects, a dire ape, a gorilla, an Arshan hound, interesting, an Arshan trumpet, assassin vine. That's pretty neat looking thing. As you could probably tell, I'm literally looking through this for the very first time, and so although some of these creatures are very familiar, if you've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for years, so the Behir is in the Monster Manual 2, I believe. Black Pudding is going back to Monster Manual 1. Boars and dire boars, boggards, the bullet, much more realistic view of it than what was in the original Monster Manual. There's a bugbear. Once it gets somewhat of a cartoony look to them, but still kind of, and the regular animals have a more realistic look to them. So it's kind of neat how they do that style. So anything that's semi-humanoid takes on a certain aspect to it that makes it stand out as Pathfinder. So this is a choker. Let's see if they have ghouls. Ghouls is something that I enjoy. They have all these different demons, devils, dragons. Obviously not going to change very much from one game to the next. Driders, drow. So there you have your dark elves, Dwergar, which is basically your dark dwarves. I wanted to see ghouls. And so there's a ghoul. I kind of like ghouls as a, as a lower level kind of creature for characters to encounter, player groups to encounter. Usually around second or third level, I like to throw ghouls at them. Cloud giants, and so on. So there's a hobgoblin. Now in Dungeons and Dragons, the hobgoblins take on a very like the Mongolian Mongol horde kind of look to them. So they have a more Asian aspect to them. Not so much here. They just look like a brawnier, bulkier goblin. The homunculus looks pretty cool. So I just flip through and see. So there's a lot that's familiar, some that are unique, I guess, to Pathfinder, and overall, the packing that these came into was like the worst packing I've ever seen. It was like this powdery, fibrous stuff that got into everything. Couldn't believe how badly that was packaged. I mean, the books were in good condition, but they were covered in that stuff. So basically, that's a first look at Pathfinder, and once again, very happy with the purchase. $30 plus shipping and handling. I think total it came out to $47 for all 3 books delivered. So not bad at all, considering. It's a very popular game out there. I know some people are still playing first edition, and they haven't fully either transferred over to second edition. I haven't heard all that much good things about second edition, so you can still get your hands on first edition for a pretty decent price. So once again, thanks for joining. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and share videos, because that's what really gets the channel a big boost out there, so that others can be attracted to it. And the more people that are in, the more input that I get as far as the comments are concerned, to take a look at other games that are out there. And these here are going to go right back on my shelf here, and I'll put them in the standard order that I do. I always put the core, the player, and the bestiary. So these are going to go right behind me. You probably see my DCC right behind me as well. And so that's where these are going to get tucked away. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. We have the new year coming up in the next couple of days, so I wish you all a happy new year. I'll probably get one or two more videos in between now and then. Actually, on December 30th is the third anniversary of the channel, so I'm certainly going to put up a video on that and kind of do like a year in review for the channel and take a look at some of the games that had gotten the most views on the channel during this past year. So once again, enjoy your weekend coming up. Have a great new year if you don't get around to seeing the next video. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. You'll have a great evening.